Hey, Awkwardly Awesome episode 3 starts right now. Now. Welcome, Alison. How are you?
I am great, Jason. Thanks for having me on.
Cool. It's such a privilege to have you here.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
No, I'm getting a more major echo.
Yeah.
but so you've done a whole bunch of things in your life. When I first met you, you were on top of your game with the affluence code.
Yep.
And now you have a brand called Bad Widow,
I do.
Which is based on a lot of life experience.
It really is. It really is. I sort of decided that the pain of losing my husband had to serve some purpose besides just being awful.
So you channel the pain into purpose.
I did. We have similar stories that way, right?
Yeah, we really do. And that channeling, so tell us briefly, like how you found out that your husband was sick.
Yeah. Sort of the story of how I lost my husband and turned it into this. Is that what you want?
But just what about like how quickly you found out that your husband was sick?
Yeah. So I lost my husband in 2016, and suddenly I was a widow. My life just blew up, and I didn't really know how to be a widow. I had been with the same guy for 25 years, and what I discovered was that I had a really small life after. I was so devastated that my life just crunched down.
Crunched down.
Yeah. And I felt completely broken. And I was treated that way. And that the thing that changed everything was when I decided that just wasn't true. When I tapped into that inner resilience that knows that we are, as people, we're whole people all the time. Stuff happens to us, but we are innately pretty amazing. Right? I mean, you talk about that all the time. And so what I did was I started pushing my world out, making it bigger. So I kind of re-engaged with life. I started doing things, but I couldn't do very much. I was devastated. And so sometimes it was, call a friend, and sometimes it was do some work, and sometimes it was put my foot on the floor and get out of bed. Right? So then re-engage, I started pushing out. Reinvent, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what a widow was. I knew that the way that I was being treated, I didn't like. And that was not what I was going to be as a widow. So I started defining my own path. And I started educating people about how I wanted to be treated. And then the last thing I did was I started rebuilding my networks, because I was a lot. I mean, I was crying that first year all the time. And so people stepped up, they stepped back, and they stepped out. So the last piece was to rebuild my networks for the me I was then. Because you don't go back. I mean, we say, I wish it was the way it was. That's not a thing. You know? Like we live our life experiences and then we go from there. But going back to who we were before, we'll never be that person again. And trying to live like you can be is setting yourself up for regret, I think.
So you, so, but I would say your resilience started even before your husband passed away. You and your husband David determined to let like you had gotten the prognosis, but you determined to live each day fully instead of shrinking. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I forgot that we talked about that. Yeah, we decided. So all the doctors said, slow down, relax, do less. And for us, that didn't make any sense because, people talk about what would you do if tomorrow was your last day? This was a man I'd been with for, at the time he was diagnosed, almost 24 years. And for us, in a pretty short period of time, it was going to be our last day. Like that was real. That wasn't like a fictional thing we were asking ourselves. And what we decided to do was we decided to live fearlessly. We decided to live like tomorrow was going to be our last day because it was going to be. And what that meant is that we both started doing things we had been scared to do, things that were kind of on our bucket lists. I wanted to sing in a cabaret show. On my bucket list, 10 years. Speak about the work I did on stages. Same time frame, 10 years. I'd been waiting to live into that dream. And in the 11 months, while my husband was literally dying, I spoke on 3 stages and sang on 4.
Wow. You spoke on 3 stages and sang on 4.
Yep. And the last one, so my husband died on a Saturday at home in my arms. And the last time I sang, he pushed me out the door, and it was the Tuesday before he died. 5 days.
Wow.
But he wanted me to live,
Well, so you two were able to really celebrate his life in those 11 months, but then he also was able to position you to move forward and push out even though he knew the grief would be very intense.
Yeah, we both did. We both sort of recommitted to life and recommitted to love. In 25 years, there's a lot of marriage that becomes logistics, like who's taking out the trash and who's getting the laundry done. And so you sort of forget what's front and center of a relationship, which is love. And I guess I hadn't actually thought about it this way, but what we did in those months and what I've tried to do since is put front and center love. So what are the people I love to be around? What are the things I love to do? What are the dreams that aren't realized yet that it's really time to get on with? So I never thought of it that way. Thank you. You're brilliant.
Oh, perch, 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 French, in center.
Yeah, I mean, when I met you, and you were so shy about speaking up that you barely spoke, and every word that came out of your mouth was pure gold.
Hmm.
And then, you know, you still had that shyness, but your commitment to connecting with people was bigger than that. I mean, and it had to be bigger than that for you to go through. So you started just writing messages on Facebook, and then sharing photos, and then speaking, and then singing. And it's been such an inspiration to watch you.
And I remember a certain person coached me to do that at the very beginning.
Yep.
Coached me to put front and center work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, what I discovered is that in order to go through the pain that it took for me to push out, especially to be willing to, you know, my husband literally died in my arms, and that was more pain than I ever imagined experiencing in my whole life. And risking love again was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And so, in order to get through what I was going to have to go through to be willing to love and be loved again, I had to put a really big goal on the other side. And so, what I said to myself was, I'm entitled to a second epic love affair.
A second epic love affair.
Yep. Because why not? Because I would not have been able to go through the pain, the tears. I was a hot mess, an absolute hot mess. I could cry on a dime, sometimes all day, for a couple of years, honestly. And so anyone dealing with me got to deal with this hot mess. Right? And I needed to go through the embarrassment and the shame and the all of that. And it had to be big enough on the other side to be willing. And for you, you know, observing you and observing you just amazing, it had to be your longing to connect with people and serve people with what you knew, which is what you've done. I mean, I speak of you as one of the most inspiring men I know.
Wow, thank you.
True. It's true.
Thank you. We have a comment. Mary, my friend Mary from New Mexico says, Alison Pena, I am sorry for your loss and thank you for sharing your story. Jason and I are all friends by now and met through laughter yoga.
Yeah.
I would like to introduce you to my dear friend Wayne Lee, who lost his wife. Cool. Would you like an introduction?
Nice.
Cool. I can introduce you to.
Yeah, I'd love that. I'd love that.
Cool. Oh, and the background. So you say after your husband died, did you almost have a shyness too expressing your love for life?
I think this is what you're asking. People say, prepare yourself, and you can prepare yourself, but you can prepare yourself, make the will. It's not possible to prepare yourself for becoming a different person.
Mm.
And it's not really possible to prepare yourself for that. So I got exhausted right after my husband died because I was sleeping in about 2-hour increments, but people would ask me why I didn't nap. And the reason I couldn't nap is that when I was in that moment between being awake and being asleep, it felt like I could feel the warmth of his body next to mine. And then I would wake up and I would remember he was gone. And that happened every day.
Wow.
Right? And so I couldn't nap because I couldn't go through that more than once a day. Yeah. And it was just little things like you don't have energy to do everything all at once. Sometimes you have energy to do small things and sometimes big things. And so a lot of it was just giving myself the grace to do what I could do each day.
The grace to do what you could do each day.
Yeah.
And through that, you move forward.
Yeah, keep moving, but sometimes movement when you're going forward, sometimes movement looks like a crab. Like you go back a step, you go sideways, you go forward 2 steps. It's not always forward motion.
Well, it looks like a crab.
Right.
That's a good metaphor.
Isn't that true though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's you do something, you learn something, you go forward, you go back, you get, crunched by something mean someone says. And the thing I like about moving at all, so this is where the grace comes in. Whenever you move, you have a different view.
Whenever you move, you have a different view.
Yeah. And then from the different view, then you open up different possibilities. There's something else that's available to you.
Wow.
Even if you went backwards, you still have a different view. And that's really cool because if you can then go, okay, where am I right now? And there's a lot of power in being present to what is, to staying present to what is. Because when we're hurt, we jump into thinking. Fear, grief, anger, rage, shame. Right? And if we can come into our bodies, which is what self-care is about, right? Like get back into your body. Get back into, breath, writing, walking in nature, taking the beautiful photos you take. Whatever brings you back home to yourself.
You're in New York City during a pandemic in Manhattan. How do you keep coming back into your body when the outside isn't available as much?
It was really hard. I live literally right next to a hospital. So in March and April, when we had, 1,000, we had 800 some people dying a day. I could look down out my window and see the ambulances. And a lot of days there were 20 ambulances. And down the street is the medical examiner. And there were 3 trucks refrigerated trucks. It was very hard. It was very hard. And so one of the things that I did, and I did a little 5-day challenge at one point called Getting Present in Your Body Using Your Senses. Because your senses only exist in the present. What did you hear? What did you see? What did you touch? And one of the big secrets is if you can just really look at something, you are automatically present in your body. If you can taste an orange,
Big and orange.
that's all there is. Just the taste of the orange. And it's tart or it's whatever it is. But every single sense has the capacity to bring you right present back into your body. And once you're in your body, you can find peace. And once you are in a place where you have a sense of peace, then you're automatically going to make different decisions and take different actions because you've tapped back into your resilience, right? And everybody's got that. But in times like now, we lose our knowing of it. We forget. And we have to remember.
So we forget, we go in the head and think, what if there shouldn't be, what if, and we lose track of the present moment.
Yeah. I mean, we start flying around in our head. And if you're worried about something and you're afraid, and then you'll get more and more fears, more and more worries just collected. And from there, it's impossible to make a decision that's not through a filter of fear or through a filter of anger or through a filter of something, right? But once you can come back at our I believe, at our heart, if you look at another human being, there's love. I believe love is the bridge between people. Which sounds very airy-fairy, but it's actually really practical. I mean, even today, we have more in common than we do that's different.
So kind of, are we in our heads in fear, or are we connecting in love?
When we're in our heads, we're thinking our way through. So if you think about something happened, someone said or did something mean, and we get hurt when that happens, right? When Periscope first came out, I was so excited to be on video. And so I got on Periscope and I'm doing my thing, and someone typed in, "You're a fat pig."
Oh.
And it knocked me back, right? You can't reason your way past the hurt, right? It needs to be healed in the body, right? So they work together, but if you try to, well, I understand now why I was angry. I understand now why I was sad or afraid or whatever. It doesn't release it. It doesn't heal it. So when you can get present, then you can have the entire self connect up to reveal and heal and, change things. My second Periscope was 3 things I learned from a troll.
Brilliant. And that's the resilience that you not only talk about, but you live.
Yes.
Just a few more questions. So how many times a day would you say you take the present? Is it like once a day, once a week, once a month?
I sort of as much as I need it.
Mm.
Ideally, I would be doing it at least once a day right now because I'm pretty roiled up by all the stuff going on in the world. Um, it's something that is a tool in my skill set. But I would say you can't do it too much because every time you come back present, your decisions improve because you're acting with your whole self. And so you do yoga, you know that there's body wisdom. You know,
Definitely.
when they say make decisions from your gut, there's some science that says that there actually is wisdom in your gut, which is wild, right?
Yeah.
But anyone knows that, right? Who does any kind of practice that's mindful in some way. Uh,
Yeah, I hadn't expected to get into mindfulness in this, but I love that we talked about because it's so important to going through this hard time. It, another person, if we know someone who just experienced a significant loss, what is the best way we can support them from the outside? I mean, beyond like sending flowers, going to the funeral as possible, sending a sympathy card. What else can we be doing?
yeah, the best thing that you can do for someone who's experienced a significant loss. Very often, what people do is they mean well, but they don't actually know how to interact with the person who's experienced a significant loss. So the first thing to do is don't ask them what they need because they don't know. People would say that to me all the time. And really, what I wanted was my husband back. Just bring him back. Nobody could give me that, right? But beyond that, I had no idea what I needed or wanted. So the thing that I recommend is if you're someone who's supporting someone like this, listen to what they have to say without judgment. The second piece is, and people who've suffered a loss can educate the people around them on how to take better care of them, right? Because what happens a lot is people tell you what they would want if they were in your situation. Guess what? They're not. Thank goodness. Thank
Mm-hmm.
goodness they're not. Then the second thing is to just take on out of something that person said, okay, would you like me to take care of this? Would you like me to bring you a meal once a week? Would you like me to organize for someone to call you every day? Would you like me to do something? And then do it with guidance.
So we don't have to do everything to fulfill the person's needs. They just take something on.
Yeah, listen and take on what they need you to take on. What's really toxic is people assuming that they know what you want or need. So you'll wind up with, 75 casseroles in the first week. But in the fourth week, everyone's gone away. So one of the things I recommend is to scale out so that a person has support. The first year I was a wave of grief, but I had a lot of support. The second year, everybody vanished because they thought I should be over it. I wasn't over it.
So it's like a community needs to make a plan with the person for ongoing support.
Yes. The other thing that I would recommend specifically for someone who's suffered a loss, so that's how you get people to support you. but I realized I didn't thoroughly answer the question that was asked. In order to get back to yourself, you have to increase the self-care, whatever that means. It's really necessary to start looking for moments of joy. Now, joy feels like a betrayal if it's loss of a loved one. But you have to look for pockets of joy. So is it children blowing bubbles? Is it a flower? Is it taking a good long breath? What is it that can bring you back into a moment of joy? By increasing self-care, you increase your capacity to be at peace, to rest for a minute. The other thing about it is that you can't do it when you're exhausted. So one of the things that I did was I asked a whole bunch of friends. I said, give me all your best self-care tips. Specifically, I got 100 self-care practices. 100 from my friends.
Wow. 100.
100. So when I was exhausted, what I did was I went to my list because I couldn't think of anything when I was exhausted. But I could go and look and go, yep, that's a good one for today, and do that.
So you like had a exhaustion plan that would guide you during these times of exhaustion. So you didn't just slip further into exhaustion.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's unrealistic to assume that you can be effective when you're completely drained. It doesn't make any sense. But
Humans just don't design it.
Yeah. Yeah. And joy in the face of a big loss is tough. So we think of joy as, okay, I'm just joyful. Sometimes joy can just be feeling authentically how you feel and having nobody try and talk you out of it. Just letting yourself be, just resting as you are. That can be joyful.
So sometimes joy actually can be letting yourself feel the grief and feel the anger and
Yeah,
giving yourself freedom to be you.
exactly. Because if you're sad, having someone say, don't be sad, is really annoying.
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work, right?
I'm so sad.
Yeah, but then you feel like you don't have freedom to be how you are. Then that person is actually cramping you down, not letting you be. And then you start not letting yourself be. And then the really toxic thing is maybe they're right and I'm not allowed to feel this way. People are allowed to feel however they are. It's human.
And it's not only freedom, but it's the only way we feel, by feeling where we're at now and then being able, as you say, to gradually expand outward.
Exactly.
Last question. What would you say to someone right now who is fortunate not to have experienced a substantial loss during this hard time during these 8 months, but just is feeling starting to feel exhausted from the day in and day out of the news, of the barrage of news? How can they help themselves?
watch less news. So I was waking up in the middle of the night and looking at the news on my phone, and then I was getting anxious. So there are a few things that you can do, and a lot of these are well known. So before you go to sleep, think about what you're grateful for. What was beautiful that you saw? Some moment of joy.
Mm.
And steep yourself in how that feels, right? Because once, whatever you land in your body with, the body sensation, the experience that you go to sleep with, that will take you through the night.
Wow.
Yeah. So gratitudes, thinking of something someone said to you that warmed your heart, thinking of something that you gave or did for another person that lifted them up, whatever it is for you, some walk where you saw a baby fawn. So, it can be anything. It's just what you're doing is you're amplifying the joy right before you go to sleep. Watch less television. Pay attention less to the news. It's really brutal at the moment. At the end of the day, people need to honor their own selves, right? They just need to. If they want to listen to advice, listen to advice. But at the end of the day, you live with what you choose. And that's, and on some level, be at peace with that. Be at peace with, I'm doing this and this is right for me, and let it rest. And if there's people who don't agree with you, you don't necessarily have to share what your feelings are, your thoughts are. I was on a podcast this one time, and when I went on Bumble and started dating again, I had 3 criteria for the guys I was dating: no smokers, no Trump supporters, current Trump supporters, and must love music. That was it. And I had no intention of getting into politics. But he was really interested in that, in why the second criteria. And at the end, what I said was, in my intimate relationships, I have a right to feel safe.
Mm.
So I'm glad to talk to anyone about anything, but in my intimate relationship, it needs to be a safe space for me.
Mm.
The funny thing was, I kept trying to get off the topic, and he talked about it for 20 minutes, and it was live. So there was nothing to be done about it.
Oh.
Oh well. It was pretty funny. You gotta laugh,
At least I was done after 20 minutes.
Oh my gosh. And I was like, well, why don't we talk about this? No, but I'm really curious about I'm like, oh, please let me out of here. It was really funny.
But so often we are like that in the voice with the news. It's like you being on that podcast. You don't want to be that. And with the news so often we don't want to be that, but we just keep watching instead of using our choice to turn it off. And it's not like we need hundreds of hours of news to know who we're going to vote for. We do a little research and then we know how we want to vote. And
Yeah, and then we go and we vote and it's done. And what happens.
And then we move on.
Yeah. Yeah. And be at peace. I mean, in the end, we have more in common than we have differences. In the end, love is the bridge.
In the end, love is the bridge.
That is what I believe.
Speaking of love is the bridge, our last person, will you tell us briefly about your second epic love affair?
What's it?
Will you tell us briefly about your second epic love affair?
My second epic love affair. So I decided to go on Bumble, which was a dating online app. And I wrote my profile to say as clearly as I could who I was, so that if someone wanted someone like me, they could find me. And I didn't care what I didn't care about height. I didn't care about the job. I didn't care about any of that stuff. I wanted to describe myself so clearly that if they wanted me, they could find me. And then I looked at the responses I got. And if the guys were the wrong guys for me, not the wrong guys for everybody, but the wrong guys for me, I changed my profile until by the time I went out with anyone, I was only dating guys who were, really good guys for me potentially. And this one man just kept rising to the top.
Rising to the top.
Just rising to the top. My husband was an artist, so I have 800 paintings at home. And so whoever I wound up with needed to be okay with that. I was a hot mess. I had a lot of anniversaries that kept hitting. Those days I would cry all day. So whoever he was needed to be okay with me sometimes being not great to be around. It took me a long time to be able to have an arm around my waist because it felt wrong. To not have a panic attack when someone kissed me, like full-on panic attack. And so this man just kept being there for me and just kept being okay with, as long as I was honest and as long as I wasn't laying the responsibility for how I was on him, he was good. And we have been together. We met July 1st of 2018. And he moved in April 2019.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
It was amazing. And it was just being straight, honest, and being the foundation of our relationship is really strong because we told the truth from the start.
Told the truth from the start.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Alison, for not just thinking of resilience as a concept, but actually finding the courage and the patience in the truck to move forward and actually live a very resilient, inspiring life where you now help people going through grief. It's just so inspiring, and thanks for coming on today.
Oh, you're so welcome. You're so welcome. Yeah. That you can find me at badwidow.com.
Yeah. And I encourage everyone to check out the website. It's absolutely beautiful.
No. Thanks, Jason. You're the best.
Thank you, Alison.
Oh, you're very welcome.
You're the best too. And now the outro. We did it.
We did it! Yay! I thought it was great.
Thanks so much. Yeah, what you have to say is so profound. Because you're actually living this life that people need to live if they're going to be joyful during times like this.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you so much. I have to hop. I have a kid to tutor.
Right, cool. Thanks, Alison. Appreciate it.
Best.
Bye. Take care.
Okay, bye. You too. Best.
Bye. Take care.
Okay, bye. You too.
Shit.
Best.
Bye. Take care.